If for some reason you haven't heard, the Wyatt Sicks have arrived in WWE and left us with more questions than answers. Just in scrolling the internet today, I've seen all sorts of overconfidence and speculation about what exactly the Wyatt Sicks did on Monday night and what their mission is going to be moving forward. None of our questions have been blatantly answered, no matter how correct certain people out there think they are. But I admit, it's still really fun to speculate. I think it might be helpful to remember who the people were behind the masks, the human embodiment of Bray Wyatt's puppet creations and friends. Who are the Wyatt Sicks? Nikki Cross debuted on NXT in 2016 as part of a faction known as Sanity. I believe the name of the faction was a play on the letters of each individual member's name, but they were a dominant force on the NXT roster, and one that did manage to capture the NXT Tag Championships. Her character was one that came across both strong but kooky and unhinged. She was known for repeating a phrase, always telling those around her or even the thin air to play with her. Play with Nikki. In 2018, all members of Sanity at the time, Eric Young, Alexander Wolf, and Killian Dane were drafted to SmackDown, and Nikki was left behind on NXT to fend for herself. Nikki wound up in a situation where she witnessed the attack of Aleister Black, and it was later revealed that Johnny Gargano was the one who attacked him. This placed Nikki in a match at TakeOver against Johnny Gargano's wife, Candice LeRae. In 2019, Nikki Cross was eventually drafted to Raw and crossed paths with Alexa Bliss. They'd become not only a tag team, but budding friends, best friends in the words of both of them. Their relationship and eventual reign as tag champs felt a little chaotic and back and forth, losing their titles at separate times to both the Kabuki Warriors and the Boss 'n' Hug Connection. Where things get really interesting is that Nikki Cross got a little heated at Alexa after losing a women's championship match against Bayley in 2020. Bliss is then targeted by The Fiend, and that's when we see Alexa Bliss working alongside him. With the change in Alexa's demeanor, her best friend Nikki tried to remain friends, but Bliss ultimately betrayed her and attacked her, and then Nikki was drafted to Raw. When we see Nikki again, she's a completely different person. She's being referred to as Nikki ASH and donning a superhero cape and a loud and bubbly personality. But eventually in 2022, she seems to revert back to her Sanity kooky demeanor. And at Survivor Series War Games in 2022, Nikki beats Dana Brooke for the 24/7 championship, and then she throws it away. The last we really see of her, she's giving Candice LeRae the creeps. Eric is a Wyatt family OG. The Wyatt family debuted on NXT in late 2012, and Rowan was dubbed by Wyatt himself his second son. Eric would be seen mainly tagging with other Wyatt family member, the late great first son, Luke Harper. The Wyatt family would make their jump to the main roster in 2013, donning a spooky and eerie swamp backwoods family vibe. They famously feuded with the other insanely popular faction at the time, a little group known as The Shield. All while their leader, Bray, was feuding with John Cena. Just a year later, Rowan and Harper seemed to be on their own entirely. The Wyatt family as a unit looked to be disbanded, and it was said that Bray had set the two of them free. But the Wyatt family returned to face The Shield once again, this time with a new member in Braun Strowman. So then in 2016, Rowan ended up feuding with The Rock and was beaten by him at WrestleMania in 6 seconds. This prompted the Wyatt family to go after The Rock on site, and then John Cena shows up to help him. A bunch of injuries and canceled plans in between, Rowan was drafted to SmackDown with Wyatt, and Braun Strowman was drafted to Raw, splitting them up. In 2017, it looked like the Wyatt family was officially over, some of them feuding with each other and then continuing on their respective brands. Eric Rowan and Luke Harper would debut the Bludgeon Brothers, a team I look back on very fondly, a team that won the SmackDown tag titles and even successfully defended them multiple times. In 2019, Rowan was drafted to Raw and Harper stayed on SmackDown. And then things started getting a little weird. He tagged with a heel Daniel Bryan at this time, and much of that is a fever dream blur to me. Rowan would carry a cage around with him, hinting that there was some kind of creature inside of it that he cared for, and the creature ended up being a big spider. I think Drew McIntyre smashed the spider with like steel steps, and that was Eric Rowan's last match in WWE. Eric was then released from WWE in 2020 after 9 years. Dexter debuted on NXT in 2019. He didn't talk. He came across menacing and like he wanted to hurt people. He was like a hitman, tortured artist, vigilante of sorts. A creep, for lack of a better term. In 2021, he got caught up with The Way, feuding with Johnny Gargano, at one point abducting Austin Theory, and falling in love with Indy Hartwell. Over the course of that year, we see Dexter being humanized and cautiously being accepted into the little family that was more than anything just concerned for Indy's well-being. At the end of that year, Indy Hartwell proposes to Dexter in the middle of the ring, and they were married the next month by Beth Phoenix because Dexter choked out the original officiant. It was the first time we heard Dexter speak, saying "I do" to marrying Indy. The Way was no more in 2022 because Johnny Gargano didn't renew his contract at the end of the year. Just a few months later, and Loomis was released from WWE himself. And then at the end of 2022, Dexter seemingly makes a return as a man in a black zip-up hoodie in the crowd. It looks like he was targeting The Miz, tormenting him a bit, but then it was revealed that The Miz actually paid Loomis to stage the attacks, and Loomis was just coming to collect the bag that he was owed. They had a match, Dexter wins his money, and then they have another match where Dexter loses his money because of Bronson Reed. He made a couple more appearances, most notably helping Indy Hartwell iconically win the NXT Women's Championship, and we haven't seen much of him since. Joe Gacy is the one that I do know the least about, but what I do know is that in 2022, he feuded with Braun Breaker, and I guess he actually kidnapped Breaker's dad, Rick Steiner? From what I've seen, he shares with the rest of the members of the Wyatt Sicks that he's darker and quirky and a little sadistic. He was part of a group known as Schism, one that Ava Raine was actually a part of, and it sounds like they lived to make Cameron Grimes' life a living hell. Some of the members' contracts expired, and at one point after, Gacy states that the Schism is dead. Post-Schism, it seemed like he was trying a character change, but ultimately just had a few great feuds throughout the remainder of 2024. Their leader? Uncle Howdy. Uncle Howdy is the one who has guided us through all of his clues, slowly introducing us to his new family. But does Bo Dallas have connection to Uncle Howdy? For those of you trying to catch up or learning for the first time, Bo Dallas was Bray Wyatt's brother, but I don't think that ever translated in a story between their characters. Bo was stark difference from his brother. He was lively and not cryptic until the NXT audience turned on him sometime in 2013. He then joined a stable called the Social Rejects and leaned into being more of an ass. Bo would then go on to be a member of the Miztourage, one of the Miz's right-hand men and lackeys. After that, he stayed in a tag team with his Miztourage partner Curtis Axel called the B-Team. And then in 2019, the man behind Bo Dallas asked for time off. We were teased with Uncle Howdy the first time in 2022 until we lost Bray Wyatt. The group is called the Wyatt Sicks, and on Monday we were introduced to 5 of them. Like I said, there are many speculations and conversations happening about who exactly the 6th member is and if there is one at all. If you ask me, the truth is that we just don't know as much as you might think you do. Some of the speculation is that that space is being held open for the spirit of Bray Wyatt. Others are saying that it could be Alexa Bliss. Others are saying that it could be Braun Strowman. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know because I don't. What I can speculate on is what each member of the Wyatt Sicks have in common with each other. Not only do many of them have the same instance where they were overlooked or released or put in situations that they didn't want to be in, but a lot of them have past beef and wrongdoings by members of the current active roster. Some that we haven't seen in a long time until very recently. A repeating factor that I see is that a lot of people have some kind of beef with members of The Way. Some of them have beef with The Rock, John Cena. Eric Rowan's last match was against Drew McIntyre, who smashed his spider. I said this in my previous video, but it feels like the Wyatt Sicks to me is a vigilante group, a Shield-esque group out for some kind of justice. But how real is this justice? Did we actually off Chad Gable? Was there actually a gorilla full of superstars and staff that were offed? There was blood on the wall. I don't have these answers, but I have to ask the questions to myself. When I said before that you need to let go of all logic, I didn't mean like my explanation. I meant that we very well could show up next Monday and Chad Gable could be there in the flesh. Not everything has to be as it seems. For all we know, these are illusions, these are dreams, it's an alternate reality. Sometimes we have to let go of having an explanation and just enjoy the ride that they're gonna take you on, to quote The Rock. I have more things I want to dive into, like a list of who potential victims could be, but this is a little background story, a little bit of aside for those of you that haven't been caught up within the last 10 years of what exactly has been going on with these members. I hope that this helped. Thank you for tuning into my video. Let me know what you think of the Wyatt Sicks. Let me know about all of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Take care, guys.